Let's look at discussions component inside of Canvas. So discussions are a way for you to have asynchronous type of communication with your students, meaning you can post a message and then they can post a response to that message a few hours later or whenever they get to the computer. This is different than obviously a face-to-face communication, but still allows a constant flow of communication back and forth. Now there are two ways to enter in a discussion. That is going to be either directly through the module here or through discussions. I'm going to choose to use the one on the left. So I'm going to click discussions, and when I click discussions, I'm going to get this screen. Now, on this screen, you'll see things like pinned discussions, which are important discussions that you have pinned to the top of your screen so that you know what's active and what's not. You also have another section below that for just discussions. This will be any active discussions that are currently being worked on. And you have discussions that have been closed for comments. This section is for any discussion that has been closed and so that you can review the comments later on. So let's create a new discussion. What we're going to do is when we created the new discussion, we're going to come into the title and we're going to type chapter 1 through 4, Catcher in the Rye discussion. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to provide some information to the student about what you want the discussion to be about. So we might say, please read chapters 1 through 4 and discuss the character Holden. Be sure to be specific about his interactions with other students like Ackley. And you can continue and provide any additional information that you want. Now this section here called Post To will post to all sections. Currently, no one's really using separate sections of a course, so we're just going to leave this as all sections. You don't have to change this. In this case, for attachments, we can choose a file. If I wanted to upload a PDF file or some sort of image that you want them to read beforehand, you will actually have it here. You can post it and they can review that. Now we get to the options. In the options, we have something called Allow Threaded Replies. If we turn this on, it means students can reply to other students' post. So you might make a post, and then student 1 replies to your post. Well, you can allow other students to reply to that student 1 post, and you can create this discussion back and forth. The second one, users must post before seeing replies, is a very good option because here, a user cannot see any other student's replies until they have posted first. They would have had to have replied to your post before they could see any other student's post, and that's a very good option. Enable podcast feed. We don't have podcasts right now, so we don't have to turn that on. You can actually choose graded if you want, where you can actually give a points possible, or you can change it to a letter grade or some other scale if you like. And allow liking will allow students to like certain replies. It's like the little thumb button in Facebook or whatever the image is here. And here you can basically add a student to do. So in other words, this will be something that they will do by a certain date. So we'll set the date as, let's say, the 19th, and then it will appear. Now, this discussion might be available from a certain period to another period. So in other words, it will be closed and they cannot see it anymore after the until date. So in other words, if we go from March 17th to March 19th, on March 20th, if we had this as March 20th for the until, they would no longer be able to see the discussion at all, nor could they see any of the replies. You'll notice there's some other options like not published, and we can link this to other content. So we can link it to an assignment, we can link to a quiz, and so forth. And we can insert a link to one of these items in here if we wanted to. But we'll click Save. And now you'll see here's what this looks like. This is my Catcher in the Rye discussion. It's going to all sections. It's going to be due on March 19th. This is when I posted it. And I'm basically set with everything. I will click Publish to make it live. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this plus, because I'm going to add that discussion to the module. Now, if you recall, I said there are two ways to do it. So what we can do is if we click on discussion here, you're going to notice that the one that I just created is this one, chapter 1 through 4, Catcher in the Rye discussion. Or I could have created a new topic and I could have done all those steps just by clicking the button here if I wanted it in this module. However, if you create discussions for other modules and you want to reuse them, you would see them here on the list and you could just apply it to this module. You can have the same discussion applied to multiple modules. So we'll give it a name if we want as a topic, Catcher in the Rye, 1 through 4. I will click Add Item, and you'll see that it shows up here. Now, it's not published for this module yet, so we're going to publish it so that now it's visible as part of the module. So now what I'll do is I can basically go to my student, and let's see what the student sees. So here's my student module, and you'll see there's my Catcher in the Rye at the bottom. Now, what you're going to notice here is that my to-do has shown that at March 19th, I have this due, and it is a discussion. That's what this icon is. So I'll click Catcher in the Rye. So now I can reply to this discussion. I think Holden is mean. And it'll post the reply, and it will say that I'm posted. So now I'll go back to the teacher setting. And I will basically go to my discussions. So you'll see I have my Catcher in the Rye 1 through 4. And I have one unread reply and a total of 1 reply. So I'll click on Catcher in the Rye here, and I can see the post by the student. I think Holden is mean. As a teacher, you can then reply to that student, I think you need to elaborate more. And I can post the reply there. Now, if I go back to the student, and I refresh his screen, you will see that my reply is here. Again, note that the names here, I'm both the teacher and the student, so this is what I would end up seeing. So at this point, if I go back to discussions, and I'm working currently with this discussion, what I can do is I can pin this discussion so that it will always appear at the top, so I know this is the one that I'm actively working on. You'll notice that for the student, it showed that the Catcher in the Rye was due on March 20th. And I could close this out because it has been done. So the other thing you want to look at is this gear box. So in this gear box, this is going to be the settings. So I can either automatically mark posts as read, or I can manually have to mark them as read. So what happens is sometimes once you go into a post, it'll mark it as read automatically. Or if you turn this on, you actually have to click on it to say, yes, I've read it. So some teachers prefer that. The bottom part is the student settings. So we want to make sure this box is checked off so that students don't create discussion topics on their own. So we want to stop that from happening. We do want to allow them to edit and delete their own posts. And it's up to you whether you want to allow them to attach files to discussions in general. So that should give you an overview of what the discussions section of Canvas does.